Hello, it's me again, Sherry. This is part two. The funny thing is, I watched that video embarrassingly enough. I hate talking in front of the camera and to people, but there's a couple of edits and things I wanted to add to that. A couple of God stories that I feel showing God's way and working in just my life story. And again, maybe it could be a motivational, inspirational, or encouragement to somebody going through something similar. So there's a couple of things I want to add real quickly. I'm going to try to do this one fast. In addition to the story that you heard about with my life and really my calling for adoption. So I want to back up this. I'm going to start with, remember when I was going through my divorce in my first video and I talked about it in my sanctuary of running. That running is my sanctuary at Mitch Park in Edmond is where I feel like I can hear God the most and the best. It's where my soul is quiet enough to actually hear him and understand him. So whenever I was running, I'd run all the time. Sometimes I have earbuds in, sometimes I don't, whatever. But I'll be praying, I'll talking to God. I ran so many miles. I ended up running a half marathon with the Oklahoma City Memorial Run in 2010, and then 2 years later I ran a full marathon. I hate running. The marathon is horrible. I'm one and done. I'll never do it again. But if you ever see pictures or anything about that, that really wasn't me trying to just run a marathon. It was me in my desperate, dark days talking to God. And I kept running so far. I'm like, what the heck? Let's just sign up for a marathon. I ended up doing it all by myself. I had no running buddy with me. Granted, there's 25,000 other people down there. It was hell. You probably see pictures on my Facebook, old pictures of me running. I remember I crossed the finish line. I'm like, yeah, I did it in under 5 hours. I can tell you stories upon stories of running a full marathon. I ended up losing a toenail. It's disgusting. I'll never do it again. Doctor's orders as well, and I just don't want to do that again. So be careful whenever you're in your dark days what you do. It could expand into a full-on marathon. Also going back with my divorce, I want to share a story with you about that. That was a dark days, going through and trying to heal from that and trying to find who I am, try to be independent, not dependent. So with that, I was like, what can I turn something bad into something good? At the time, I was going to a really, really big church here locally. And I called their office up and I'm like, what do you have for separated or divorcee couples? And they had nothing, which I was shocked because divorce rate in Oklahoma is 50%. And this big old church had 0. And, I thought about that. I'm like, what can I do? And I wanted to get help. So I ended up going to a divorce care group at a different church with a friend. I don't know if you know about divorce care. It's a recovery class, how to go beyond divorce and get over it. Hold on. Sorry, it's my dog again. So I went to this class, which was phenomenal. I learned a lot. I learned how to be dependent. It talked about, everything, how to be financially secure, building relationships, forgiveness, on and on and on. I actually went through the class twice on top of all my counseling and books and my prayers and my running and everything. Well, I went back to this big church I was going to. I'll try not to mention names. And I contacted the minister that does small groups. And I was 27 years old at the time. And I told him my story a little briefly. And I said, you have nothing here. What if I start something? Long story short, I talked to him. I told him my plan. I already had a curriculum. I wanted to do divorce care. And they let me do it. He said that the church would be behind me and back me up whatever I wanted to do, whenever, however, whatever I wanted to do. They ended up letting me meet with my small group on campus, which they never do that. I pled my case for that and they actually gave it to me. And they bought all the curriculum for it, all the videos and workbooks, everything for it. You guys, I had 90 people come through that first year. I felt like I was counseling or mentoring people around my parents' age. And I'm just a 27-year-old single mom, not even fully healed from my own divorce. And I put myself out there in a very, very vulnerable place, an environment, and just let God use me. I didn't know what was going to come of that, if anybody would show up. But I knew the divorce rate is high, unfortunately, here. I don't advocate divorce. Please don't ever get divorced. Don't ever become me. It's not easy. It's hard, and on and on. I'm so glad that God used my story to prompt me to start that group. I did that for about a year or two. It was very taxing, and I'd had people call me and text me all hours of the day and night asking for help and situations, and crazy stuff happened. I won't even go to all. Police got involved in some of the stories and courts, and it was intense. But I was glad I was able to do something for some of those people, and I hope it helped them and helped them move on. So whatever situation you're in, even though it's bad, God can turn it around and use it for the good. So I believe He used part of my divorce story to help me start that, and hopefully help other people. And I hope, I don't know, but I hope that group is somewhat still going on at that particular church. So that was part of my divorce story I wanted to add to that video. A second story is my house situation. Some of you know this and some of you might not, but I totally blame this one on God and give Him all the credit and glory for this one. Whenever I wanted to adopt my second time, I'm in the process of doing it. This is just super recent. I had a 3-bedroom house, and I'm about to have 3 kids. So there's 4 people are going to be in a 3-bedroom house. And I talked to Cade about this. I'm like, Cade, we're adopting, and you're going to get a little brother, and you would have to share a room with him. Well, of course, Cade being 12, and my little boy is younger, he wasn't too thrilled about that. And I don't blame him. You know, our son, my son is going to be a stranger to him. I don't know how he's going to act, anything. And I would have to put them in the same room together. And I wasn't so excited about it either, nor was he. And I remember telling Cade, I'm like, just give me a year or 2, and I promise somehow, some way, we'll get a bigger house. Either I'll turn our office into a bedroom or a basement or an attic or a boat, something. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to afford it, what I'm going to do, where it's going to be at. I just told Cade, I promise you, I'll somehow, some way make it work. It always works out, right? And Cade was okay with that. So I was looking online, as you saw my second video online, all these houses. But here's my problem. I don't know if you guys know Edmond Public Schools. They're very somewhat competitive to get in and out. And we live in North Edmond in brand new schools for elementary and middle school. And I absolutely love them. My family is a little bit diverse. We have our own challenges, and when Ashlyn came home, I threw her into Edmond Public Schools, not even speaking English. And I called up to the school, to the principal and the counselor, and we talked. And I said, can you take her? She knows no English, but she's in 2nd grade. And they said, sure, bring her up. I didn't know how that was going to happen, but this school was so hands-on and so gracious to us. She thrived. Her teachers there were amazing. And she misses so much school with all her doctors and surgeries and all this crazy stuff. They have been so good to us and helpful, and they already know our story and our situation. I really like them. So when I was looking for a house, I was trying to stay within that same school district, which, if you know anything about Edmond Public Schools, you go 1 or 2 miles and you're in a different school. So I'm looking for a 4-bedroom house within maybe a 1 or 2 mile radius within my price range. And I looked, and there's not really much of anything or anything I like. There's some beautiful, beautiful big old houses. Of course, being a single mom of almost 3 kids on just 1 income, that's okay. I knew I couldn't afford these big old houses. And I remember, as you guys know, I was a realtor, and I sold my neighbor's house across the street years ago, like 4 years ago, a house. And it was a 4-bedroom, and I remember looking at it, and I've always liked it. So maybe September-ish, August-ish, this summer, it was hot, where I was outside walking my dog, and they were both outside as well. And I'm like, I'm just going to go up and say something to them. I mean, and I remember praying. I was like, God, if I could get their house, that'd be a miracle. I don't want to kick my own neighbors out of their own house that I sold to them, but how cool would that be? So this night, I was out walking my dog and I saw them, so I'm just going to go up there nonchalantly, kind of jokingly, and say something to them. And I was like, hey guys, this is going to sound really weird, but if you ever decide to sell your house, I want first dibs. And they kind of looked at me weird. And I was like, I haven't told anybody yet, but I'm adopting my third kid. And your house is a 4-bedroom, and I really want a 4-bedroom house. I'm like, okay, whatever. They kind of laughed. I kind of laughed. We were kind of sarcastic, whatever. And they left and I left. 2 months out of the blue, it's a Friday night. I'm driving to the Panhandle of Oklahoma for my Uncle Bob's birthday with all my family. And I'm driving out in the middle of nowhere and my text goes off. And it's my neighbor. And she goes, hey, Sherry, this is really random and maybe a God thing, but we have to move now. And I remember you said you wanted first dibs on our house. And I'm driving like, oh crap, really, Anyway, look, I ended up talking to her and I was like, oh gosh, let me see. I wasn't planning on moving yet. I was going to go through my adoption first, then maybe move if it worked out. I don't know. I was like, let me make a whole bunch of phone calls. So, I'm in real estate. I've been in real estate forever. And I know a few people. So I called one of my lender friends and we were playing with numbers and talking about it. And, I told him the story. We ran the numbers, and for the bigger house, for a 4-bedroom, the way I would do my financing, it would come out to be a monthly cheaper payment. And I'm like, wow, because I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can afford all this and my adoption fees and having 3 kids and all the medical and the surgery and all this I have to do. I don't know. I'm stretching myself thin, right? And the numbers came back. I'm like, it would save me money to make a move. So I talked to my neighbor, this and that. You guys, 5 days later, my house was listed and on the market. It was the end of October, just a few months ago. I'm like, I'll throw it up there. It's winter in the holidays. The market's slow. It'll probably take 6 months, a year to sell, maybe. I had 23 showings in 20 days. And I don't know if you guys remember during this time, I was baking for my adoption fundraiser pumpkin pies. During these 23 showings and a full-time job and running 2 kids around, and I made 49 pumpkin pies in my house. It was the hardest thing trying to show my house and keep it clean with kids and with my kitchen being a mess full of pumpkin pies I was selling. My house smelled continuously like pumpkin pies. I'm pretty sure that's what sold it. It was just smelled like fall. And then I was also I made I can't remember, 50 Elf on the Shelf boxes during all of this too. And I'm at some point supposed to be packing up, right? So I had these showings and I sold the house. I sold it twice. So the first sell was a cash offer. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'm just gonna accept it. Well, a few days later, my realtor calls me back and she goes, Sherry, I have bad news for you. This is a whole long story short. The lady backed out. I was kind of sad, but I'm kind of, okay. If it's meant to be, it's gonna be. I wasn't planning on selling anyway, so it's fine. And I really wasn't hurt because I'm like, I really don't want to move. I got enough on my plate, and it's freezing cold, and holidays, and Christmas, and my son's birthday, on. And I'm trying to do all these fundraisers, so it was fine. She calls me back, no joke, 30 minutes later, and says, we have another offer. I'm like, okay, so maybe it is meant to be. Well, I found out it was an Asian family, and when I found that out, I just accepted it. I didn't even counter. I'm like, an Asian family and they have kids my kids' age? Okay, sure. So I sold my house. We ended up moving on Christmas Day. I don't know if you guys remember this year, just a couple of months ago, Christmas Day was a Monday and it was freezing cold. The truth is, I'm going to back up. That weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I took my kids to Enid and we had our family Christmas, and I left them there. Sunday morning, I drove home back to Edmond all by myself, and I literally packed up our entire house all by myself in 48 hours. I was exhausted. I just locked myself in the house and my garage was full of boxes. So anyhow, my family comes on Christmas Day to move because everyone's off, and we're moving literally across the street. So we moved all our boxes over. My family was here. We had Christmas lunch on my vacant living room floor. There's not even furniture or anything up. We ate sandwiches and chips that day. So I ended up closing on both of my houses. I did this all by myself. I was making harsh, rash, instant decisions all by myself. I'm just like, yes, no, that, I'm just going through it. I've been in real estate, so it's kind of okay, but that was really kind of taxing on me, and holidays and everything else going on. I was stressed to the max those months, actually. So that was not supposed to happen. My neighbors never listed their house. I told them, hey guys, go ahead and list it because this could take me forever to sell, and if you need to sell, I don't know. And they said, no, we know your story, we want to help you. And that was so sweet of them because I'm like, I don't know. So all of that was not supposed to happen. The odds of that falling together are 1 in none. I mean, it was a miracle and a godsend that even worked. I did a back-to-back closing, if you know, those are miracles anyway, but I actually bought back the house I sold to my neighbors. And I remember a week or two after we moved in, I was home alone and I was looking at my house, my new house, trying to get used to it. And I was like, God, if you gave me a 4-bedroom house, I really don't want it. I wasn't expecting it, and plus it's cheaper. I have this big old 4-bedroom house. You better provide me the sun now, because what am I gonna do with all this? So that was a total, utter leap of faith. I totally bought a house for a kid I don't even know. The odds and weirdness of that, I don't know. And I just blame that on God and how it all fell to pieces. And I know I didn't really talk about it because I didn't think it was even gonna happen. I just threw it out. Hey, I'm testing you, God. Show off now. I don't know what's gonna happen. And it all just fell in. This was just 60 days ago. And I'm still settling in, and there's still boxes in my garage, and I need help decorating. So if you guys can decorate, please. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't decorate. So that's why these walls are blank. I still don't know what I'm gonna do here. I just put these curtains up. I don't even know if I like them. Anyhow, so that is my God story of our new house and how that came to be. I'm almost done. I was also going to tell you guys, I'll show you pictures of my son whenever I can. You have to be through a certain process through the adoption before I can show him. I know who he is. I know everything about him. He just had a birthday, his last birthday without a family. So be watching for that. I'm hoping it's this month, in the month of March sometime. And I say all of this and all my long, crazy story that may or may not be entertaining or useful to you guys, to hopefully give somebody some motivation or encouragement to step out, to be crazy, to have ridiculous faith, and just go for it. And who knows? If you don't try, you can't let God do his work. So I'm just letting him show himself off. And I don't know if you want to call it ignorant or stupid enough to actually do it. And it's just falling into place. And I talk all about this, specifically orphans, but I know orphans is not for everyone in orphan care or adoption. As a matter of fact, if you ask me if you should adopt, especially internationally, I'm probably going to tell you no. The process is very hard, especially, in the beginning, as you know. But the real work comes when they come home. These babies and kids are trauma kids. They have issues and nuances. As a matter of fact, I have a journal about all of Ashton's craziness. If you ever want to read it, that is super entertaining of things she says and does. And it's just, some of it's culturally, some of it is super sad. She's never had a family or a figure that actually protects her and provides for her. I'll tell you one thing. She did say when she first came to America that she likes America because we have food. I don't know of any 8-year-old American kid that would say they're grateful for food. That just shows you a piece, and I could go on and on of all these stories of things, and it'll make you cry, of things she has said. One, don't take life for granted and where we're at. But the whole point is, I know orphan care is not for everyone. You got to do your calling. Your calling is going to look totally different from mine. It could be starting a business, or leaving a business, or writing a book, or ending or starting a relationship with a friend or a family or a coworker or something like that. I don't know what your passion and calling is. It could be anything. I challenge you to step out and actually do it. I also say all this, I'm reading some of my notes because last time I forgot. This is all ad-lib. I'm non-rehearsed, and this is just me being raw and vulnerable and honest to you guys. So I don't even know. Sometimes I'm just rambling. But if you ever want to talk with me, I'd be more than happy to talk with you about any of these things I've talked about, whether it be divorce or faith or running, how to amateurly run a marathon in under 5 hours. I could tell you crazy stories about that. Or help you in the adoption process. Or if you ever want to go to foster or adoption, I don't really know about foster and domestic. That's a whole nother level beyond me. But I'd be happy to talk to you about that, maybe walk you through some of the things. I know some of you are probably watching these videos thinking I was going to give you a detailed process of the adoption process. Yes, I can do that in a way. I only know how China is. Every country is completely different. Domestic's completely different. I don't know all the rules, but feel free if you want to reach out, and I can at least share you my perspective and what I personally have done, which every family story and every kid in every country and every situation is going to be utterly different. So you can talk to 5 different adoptive moms and you're going to get different stories. They're all unique. But if you want to hear mine in the details, I'd be more than happy to talk to you, or you can even come over and help me. I have all kinds of projects I do all the time. And lastly, I want to leave you with this. And part of my reason, maybe lots of reasons, why I do the adoptions, and specifically this one, is because I am reminded that our days are numbered. We are just a whisper of wind here. None of this on earth matters. And I have a short amount of time to make a difference in my life and somebody else's life. I don't know. And I feel like if my days are numbered and I'm only here, that's another reason when I started adopting Ashlyn, I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. What if I just adopt? Yeah, I could get married and have my own kids. I totally can. I can have biological kids, no problem. But I'm like, what if I just try? What do I have to lose? I'm only here a little bit of time. If it works, great. If it doesn't, great. I guess that's my attitude about a lot of things. So knowing that we're only here for a small time until you go to eternity, and I could talk for days about that too, we got to take advantage of what we're given and the days we're given and make the best of them. So with that, I challenge you to, or encourage you, or whatever you need to do what you always wanted to do and what you have been putting off all this time. Because you're going to look back in 5 years. 5 years are going to pass, whether you want them to or not, whether you did it or not, it's just going to pass. Why don't you might as well just do it? Because it's just going to happen anyway. That's another thing with my marathon. I'm like, the days are going to go by. Why don't I just train? I mean, that's easy. So do what you're called to do. Be bold. Be crazy. I'll support you. If you ever need to talk about anything, I'll be here to help you. I don't have all the answers. This is trial and error. This is really me actually being timid and scared and, oh my God, and just watching a beautiful, crazy mess fall in my lap. Everything so far has fallen seamlessly into my lap out of nowhere. The house, my kids, how I got them, everything just kind of comes. But you have to be open hands and just accept it and don't hold on to anything, because if you can open it up, you have no idea what's going to happen. Greater things than you ever imagined are going to happen. So Anyway, I hope that blesses you, encourages you, and hopefully I haven't left anything out, and this should be hopefully my last video. Anyway, thanks so much, and thanks for watching. Bye.